I heard the wine glass break before I heard my mother say it. Angel doesn't need that kind of money. She'd just waste it anyway. I was standing in the hallway outside my grandfather's dining room in Charleston, South Carolina, holding a bouquet of grocery store chrysanthemums I'd brought for Thanksgiving. My hands were shaking so hard the cellophane crinkled. I'd come early to help set the table. Instead, I was listening to my own mother explain to my aunt why I didn't deserve a dime. The glass had shattered on the marble floor. Someone laughed. And I realized, in that cold, clarifying moment, that I'd been the punchline my entire adult life. Let me back up. My name is Angel Reeves, and for 28 years, I believed my family simply had preferences. My older brother, Carter, was the golden child. Vanderbilt MBA. Corporate law track. Engaged to a woman whose father owned half of Savannah's historic district. He wore cufflinks to brunch. I'm not exaggerating. I was the spare. The artsy one. The one who still hadn't figured it out. I had a fine arts degree from a state school, worked as a freelance graphic designer, and rented a studio apartment in Asheville, North Carolina, above a coffee shop that smelled like burnt espresso and optimism. Carter got the heirloom watch when he graduated. I got a $50 Visa gift card and a note that said, "For art supplies." Carter got invited to investor dinners. I got invited to help clean up after. But I told myself it was fine. Families have dynamics. I'd make my own way. If this hits home, tell me where you're watching from. I want to know I'm not alone in this. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was different, though. Or so I thought. His name was William. Everyone called him Bill. He'd built a commercial real estate empire in the Carolinas from nothing, and even though he was 83, he still kept an office downtown and played golf twice a week. He was sharp. Kind. The only person in my family who ever asked about my work like it mattered. When I was 12, he told me, "Angel, the world doesn't owe you anything. But if you work hard and stay honest, you'll never have to beg." I thought he meant it. Thanksgiving 2023. Grandfather Bill's house in Charleston was the kind of place you see in Southern living: wraparound porch, oak trees dripping with Spanish moss, a dining table that sat 14. I'd driven 5 hours from Asheville in my beaten-up Honda Civic, which had started making a noise like a dying cat somewhere near Columbia. I couldn't afford to fix it. I was 3 months behind on my student loans and surviving on freelance gigs that paid in exposure and the occasional $200. I'd been holding my breath all year, honestly. Because 6 months earlier, Grandfather Bill had told me something in private. He'd called me in April, out of the blue. "Angel, I want you to know I'm taking care of you. I've wired you a gift. It's in your account. Don't tell your mother yet, I'll announce it at Thanksgiving. But I want you to have security. You've worked hard. You deserve it." I'd checked my account obsessively for weeks. Nothing came. I figured he'd meant he'd send it later. Or maybe it was a smaller amount he'd transferred and I'd missed it in my mess of overdraft fees. But that Thanksgiving morning, I brought it up over coffee in his study. "Grandfather," I said, trying to sound casual, "I wanted to thank you for the check. I haven't seen it come through yet, but I really appreciate it. $200 will help with groceries this month." He stopped stirring his coffee. He set the spoon down on the saucer with a sharp clink. Then he looked me straight in the eye. "The gift I wired you was $500,000. The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. I thought I'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? $500,000, Angel. I sent it in April. Directly to the account you gave me for your birthday deposit last year. My heart was pounding in my ears. Grandfather, I never got. He stood up. Slowly. His face had gone pale. Then someone else did. It took Grandfather Bill less than an hour to pull the records. He'd wired the money on April 10th to an account that had my name on it, but a routing number I'd never seen before. He showed me the receipt. The bank name was correct. My full legal name was on the transfer. But the account wasn't mine. I gave this information to your mother, Grandfather Bill said quietly, his hands trembling as he held the paper. She said you'd changed banks and asked me to update my records. My mother. She'd set up a fake account in my name. She'd intercepted $500,000 meant for me. And she'd done it so smoothly, I'd never even known to look. I felt like I was going to throw up. Tap like if you've ever felt the ground disappear beneath you. I need you to know this story is real. Grandfather Bill called her into the study. My father came too. Carter was out on the porch with his fiancée, blissfully unaware. Mom walked in smiling, holding a glass of white wine. She saw the paper in Grandfather's hand, and her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it snapped back into place. Is something wrong, Daddy? Where is Angel's money, Patricia? Silence. I don't know what you mean. The $500,000 I wired to her in April. The account you told me was hers. Where is it? My mother's face didn't move. But her knuckles went white around the wine glass. I was holding it for her. She's not responsible with money, Daddy. You know that. I was going to give it to her when she... When she what? I whispered. My voice cracked. When I what, Mom? She turned to me, and her expression was so cold it took my breath away. When you proved you were worth it. Grandfather Bill made her open her banking app right there. In front of all of us. She tried to refuse. She said it was invasive. She said I was being dramatic. But my father, who'd been silent until now, said, Patricia. Open it. She did. The account was in her name and mine. Joint ownership. And the balance was $278,000. She'd already spent over $200,000. I saw the transactions. A new SUV. A kitchen remodel. A loan to Carter for his wedding venue deposit. A vacation to Napa Valley. Furniture. Clothes. Payments to a country club. My money. My future. My security. Gone. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the screen, at my own name next to hers, at the way she'd carved up my life like it was hers to take. Grandfather Bill's voice was shaking. You stole from your own daughter. I was managing it, my mother said. Her voice was sharp now. Defensive. She would have blown it on rent and art supplies. I used it for the family. For investments. For yourself, I said. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. You've always been ungrateful, Angel. Dinner was a nightmare. Grandfather Bill insisted we sit down and eat, mostly, I think, because he didn't know what else to do. He was a man who solved problems with contracts and phone calls, and this was his daughter. His legacy. His mess. Carter finally came inside, confused by the tension. My mother pulled him aside and whispered something. His face hardened. He looked at me across the table like I'd done something wrong. No one said grace. No one said much of anything. I sat at the far end of the table, where I always sat, and I realized something. This wasn't new. This was just the first time I'd seen it. The missing invitations to family events. The comments about my lifestyle choices. The way my brother got business loans co-signed and I got told to be more financially responsible. The little digs. The quiet exclusions. They'd always thought I was less. And my mother had simply made it official. Comment if you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family. I see you. I promise, I see you. I excused myself before dessert. I said I wasn't feeling well. No one stopped me. I drove back to Asheville that night in the dark, my dying Honda wheezing up the mountain roads, and I cried so hard I had to pull over twice. But somewhere around mile marker 70, the tears stopped. And the clarity came. I didn't call a lawyer right away. I know that sounds insane. $500,000 stolen, clear evidence, my own mother's name on the account. I should have lawyered up immediately. But I knew my family. I knew how they worked. If I went legal, they'd close ranks. Carter would defend her. My father would play peacemaker. Grandfather Bill would be caught in the middle, his health already fragile. They'd tie it up in family court for years, draining what was left of the money in legal fees. And my mother would paint me as the villain. The ungrateful daughter who dragged her own mother to court over a misunderstanding. No. I needed something cleaner. Something undeniable. So I got smart. First, I documented everything. I took screenshots of the bank account. I saved every email Grandfather Bill had sent me about the gift. I recorded a phone call with my mother. North Carolina is a one-party consent state, where I asked her directly about the money and she told me, on tape, that she'd managed it for my own good. Then I called Grandfather Bill. Alone. I need you to do something for me, I said. And I need you to trust me. Grandfather Bill agreed to host a family meeting. He framed it as an estate planning discussion, something he did every few years to update his will and talk through assets. He invited everyone, my mother, my father, Carter, Carter's fiancé, my aunt and uncle. He said it was important. Mandatory. He didn't tell them I'd be there. The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon in January, at his lawyer's office in downtown Charleston. A neutral space. Professional. I flew in the night before and stayed at a cheap hotel near the airport. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I wore a blazer I'd bought at a thrift store and the nicest shoes I owned. I pulled my hair back. I looked like I was ready for war. Because I was. If you're rooting for me, hit subscribe. I'm going to need you for what comes next. When I walked into that conference room, my mother's face went white. Carter looked confused. My father frowned. Grandfather Bill sat at the head of the table, his lawyer beside him. A woman named Miss Thornton. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, and she didn't smile. Thank you all for coming, Grandfather Bill said. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands shaking slightly. We're here to discuss a financial matter that affects this family. Angel has some things she'd like to say. My mother stood up. This is inappropriate. If Angel has something to say to me, she can. Sit down, Patricia, Miss Thornton said. Her voice was ice. My mother sat. I took a breath. And I began. I laid it out. Calmly. Methodically. I explained the timeline. Grandfather Bill's phone call in April. The wired transfer. The account I never knew existed. The $200,000 my mother had spent. I showed the bank records on the screen Ms. Thornton had set up. I played the recorded phone call. My mother's voice, clear and cold. I was managing it for your own good, Angel. You're not ready for that kind of responsibility. I presented the email chain where Grandfather Bill confirmed the gift was meant for me. Only me. Then I showed the itemized list of purchases. The SUV. The country club. The loan to Carter that was never paid back. Carter's face went red. You told me that was your money. It was family money, my mother said quickly. I was. It was Angel's money, Grandfather Bill said. His voice cracked. And you lied to me. To all of us. The room was silent. My mother looked at me with so much hatred it was like staring into a furnace. You're really going to destroy this family over money, she said. You already did that, I replied. I'm just making sure everyone knows. Miss Thornton cleared her throat. Mrs. Reeves, you have two options. You can return the full amount, plus interest and penalties, within 30 days, or Angel can pursue legal action for theft and fraud. Given the evidence, I'm confident she'd win. And it would be public record. My mother's mouth opened. Closed. You're bluffing, she said. Try me, I said. She didn't pay it back in 30 days. She paid it back in 12. Grandfather Bill co-signed a loan against her and my father's house to cover what she'd spent. The full $500,000 was returned to an account in my name. My name only. My parents didn't speak to me for 6 months. Carter sent me a single text, you didn't have to humiliate her like that. I didn't respond. But Grandfather Bill called me every Sunday. He apologized 100 times. He said he should have been more careful. He should have known. I told him the truth, you trusted your daughter. That's not something to apologize for. He left me an additional $250,000 in his will when he passed away 2 years later. It was specified in writing, to Angel, who was always worth it. Tap like if you believe family should protect you, not rob you. This one's for anyone who's ever had to stand alone. I used the money to pay off my loans. All of them. I bought a small house outside Asheville with a studio space in the back. I started my own design firm. I hired 2 employees. I built a life I didn't have to apologize for. I didn't blow it on art supplies. I didn't waste it. I invested it. I grew it. I proved every single one of them wrong. And I did it without their permission. 3 years after the meeting, my mother reached out. She didn't apologize. Not really. She sent a text on my birthday, I hope you're happy now. I stared at it for a long time. I thought about all the things I could say. All the ways I could hurt her back. Instead, I wrote, I am. Thank you for asking. And I blocked her number. Because here's the thing I learned, some people will never see you as enough. No matter what you do. No matter how hard you fight. And spending your life trying to prove yourself to them is the real theft. Subscribe if you've ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you. You're not alone. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I tell it because I know there's someone out there right now who feels like the spare. The afterthought. The one who's always apologizing for taking up space. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a sibling. Maybe it's a partner or a friend. But here's what I need you to hear: your worth is not up for debate. It's not determined by how much money you make, or how well you fit into someone else's plan, or whether you're the golden child or the scapegoat. You are enough. Right now. As you are. And if the people around you can't see that, it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to build a life where you don't need their approval to survive. I still think about that Thanksgiving sometimes. The wine glass breaking. My mother's cold eyes. The way my brother looked at me like I was the problem. But I also think about Grandfather Bill's voice on the phone every Sunday. The way he said, "I'm proud of you, Angel." I think about the house I own. The business I built. The life I chose. And I realize, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming someone they can't dismiss anymore. If this story reached you, drop a comment and let me know what it made you feel. And if you stayed this long, hit like and subscribe. I've got more stories like this coming, and I want you here for everyone. My name is Angel Reeves. And I am worth it.